There is no argument anymore about whether global warming is real. It's already here. So the question is, how will it affect us here in Australia? As Commissioner to the New South Wales Natural Resources Commission and former Chief Scientist at the CSIRO's Land and Water, Dr. John Williams has been asking and answering these questions for over 30 years. How will climate change affect Australia?
We're living in a dry continent, and a continent that will be affected by climate change more than probably anybody else, and we have to adapt to that. But we also have to make sure we play our part in stopping it getting any worse. The Murray-Darling Basin is seen as the food bowl for Australia. This is where we've used our major flows from the snowy mountains, the only part in Australia where we have snow melt, which provides a reliable sources of water to the Murrumbidgee rivers and the Murray River, and that is where we grow most of our food. That basin is one that will be affected significantly by even the 1.5 to 2% change. It could be around the 5 to 10% reduction in rainfall and snowmelt, and that will lead to probably 25 to 30% changes in actual river flow and the water we've got to allocate.
How will a rise in sea levels affect people living on the coast?
Well, I think sea level rise is a big issue that needs to be taken into account on our coastal planning. It will affect our estuaries, our beaches obviously, and where we actually put people to live. The sorts of depth we're talking about is a little hard, but it varies from as small as 25 centimetres up to about 75 centimetres over the next 50-year period. If in fact our warming isn't controlled and we have some of the ice that's on land slipping into the ocean and melting, it will cause a much larger rise in sea level.
Is the government doing enough to combat this problem?
Well, signing Kyoto was a real U-turn. Yes, we've turned the corner and said we've got to face up to this issue. I think the Garneau report, which says to really make inroads and keep our temperature rise to around about the 1 degree or 1.5 degree over that 50-year time period, will require us to reduce our carbon emissions by around 95%. That report, coupled with the government's determination to use that report, will, I believe, set Australia on the right path. What an opportunity for Australia to get on the front foot instead of using someone else's technology later on if we're too slow to move. We've lost 15 years where we could have been thinking about what Denmark has done in terms of wind energy and what we've got great opportunities for geothermals, as I say. Solar, we were leading solar energy research. We're still in the front seat. And I think the opportunities to build baseload solar stations is quite within capacity. We're starting to build one in California. The Chinese are building them. Let's get on board.
Combating climate change requires a dramatic shift in government policy and our everyday actions. But it's not unachievable. All it requires is a change in our perspective, a reprogramming of the way we're used to doing things. In the words of Tim Flannery, we are now the weather makers.